Sorry, I keep on forgetting to follow you.
Oh, hey, what's happening? Thanks, man.
I'm not really sure I do that.
No, I appreciate the follow. Yeah, we're trying to figure it out, because it's either try to figure out how to get the druid somewhat on track, or I'm gonna give up on it until November and just focus on the shaman, because the shaman's less geared, and I feel like I'm healing way better on the shaman than I am on the druid. And I literally know nothing. Sure. I literally know nothing about shaman healing. So, but I mean, I did just spend like right now. Him and I just did spend like 2 hours, and I built my embellished wrists and my embellished weapon, right? So
yeah. Yeah, so let me look at like the talent. I don't know if you're familiar with like the Archon thing that's on Warcraft logs that kind of has like a general idea of like what talents people are playing. I can go ahead and send it to you if you don't have it already.
I don't even know what that is. I'm just looking at like this Wowhead one that Ami sent. So because before I was using liveliness, which is your heal over time effects heal 5% faster, but I'm assuming Master Shapeshifter, the Wowhead one, is saying that when you do Wrath, its damage is increased by 30%, and it generates an additional 43,700 mana. So essentially Wrath costs 5,000 mana, and if I have a bunch of haste and I'm spamming the shit out of that really fast, I could get hundreds of thousands of mana like refunded like almost instantaneously. Mm-hmm. And I assume certain heal over time effects, because before, back in the day, you wanted them to tick faster so you could hit the heal per second threshold. But I'm assuming now you don't want that, because the heals are going to fall off faster, and then essentially you're losing the synergies on your targets to work with your other healing abilities that require hot uptime on your targets. So I'm assuming that's why they're getting rid of liveliness. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that one there. Photosynthesis, while your life bloom is on your south, your periodic heals heal 10% faster.
Yeah, well, that's going to be really good. So flourish is usually just only used for raid.
So back in Legion and in Shadowlands, I actually used flourish for Mythic Plus, like high keys, because what I would do is I would hot everybody up. I would use my my Swift Mend. I would get an empowered wild growth. I'd pop it on everybody, and then I would hit a flourish, and like everybody would have like maximum hots that were like further extended by the duration, right?
Yeah. Let me take a look. Just because I want to look at a couple of druids. But I sent you on Discord a message that's kind of the link that shows you like breakdowns of talents. So the main issue, especially when it comes to Wowhead, is a lot of Wowhead talents are just kind of like set on stone. And a lot of times why I don't really like using their builds is because, especially this time around, it just feels like a lot of them are either outdated or they don't really go into a lot of detail on why those specific talents are being taken. And I feel like I don't know if it's just because of the new talent trees or how it is now, but it definitely feels more this time around that a lot of them aren't up to date, and I have to actually look through like logs. So just really quick, what would you say is your biggest struggle key right now?
So for me, like I've healed Druid for like probably like 15 years. I would say right now where I'm feeling the struggle, is most Druids are probably feeling the struggle, is the lack of throughput. You can all the old tips and tricks of like empowered Swift Mends on regrowths, there's simply no throughput. I can spam regrowths all day, and it's like there's not enough crit, there's not enough. Before, Druids were like crit monsters, and you just spam regrowths and have insane crit. That's not really happening anymore. Whereas like on my Shaman, even on a low crit, I'm getting like 1.5 million, which just is massive. On a good day, if I do like an empowered Swiftmen regrowth with like nature swiftness, maybe I'll get lucky and it'll crit for like 2 million, maybe a little bit over 2 million. But very rarely am I seeing those numbers coming out on the Druid. So I would say definitely my opinion on where Druids are suffering right now is lack of throughput. You can have all the hots in the world, but when people are taking chunky damage and you have to rely on your regrowth spams to heal people up, it's not nuking people the way it used to nuke people. And I'm finding that on lower keys, Grove Guardians were great. Like, you get, so the reason why Grove Guardians are really great, and I don't know if a lot of people realize it, but you can double stack wild growths on people. If the treants cast a wild growth and you cast a wild growth, for that 4 or 5 second, you'll actually have 2 wild growths on a target. So if I then swift mend somebody that's taking a lot of damage, that swift mend is going to increase the duration of those hots by an additional 8 seconds for whoever I have that on. Now, my old play style used to be Flourish. So I would think that Flourish, if I cast a Grove Guardian and they cast a wild growth, I bang a wild growth as well and I hit Flourish. That's double wild growths plus regrowths plus a regrowth on everybody for like, what, an extra 12 seconds on top of the normal duration. So you're talking like potentially 25 seconds of double hotted wild growths plus every other hot that I have. But all the people that I've seen and the guys that I've seen, nobody's going Flourish anymore. Everybody's going for photosynthesis, and I don't know why, because in my opinion, Flourish, it's a 1 minute cooldown, but it boosts everything from 8 seconds. Now, what I used to do in Shadowlands is I would save my swift mend. Say the tank is in a phase that's taking a shit ton of damage. I would cast all my hots on the tank. I would Flourish. Then I would swift mend, and that swift mend would increase the duration of the Flourish, because the Flourish is increasing all the effects by 25%. If you swift mend the abilities and increase the duration and then Flourish, you're not getting the benefit of it of doubling the stack of the Flourish. So what I was doing essentially was I was extending Flourish from 8 seconds to 16 seconds, cutting that cooldown from 1 minute down to essentially like 42 seconds is how the old play style used to be for me, because I kind of went against the grain of how most people used to do it. And I think for the most part, my keys I was doing back in Legion and back in Shadowlands were pretty competitive. I was in the 19s and up sort of range. I don't see anybody doing that play style, so I've adopted the play style of going with photosynthesis, where, you know, because everybody else is using the what's it called, the budding leaves, and the other one that it gives you the ability to pop two life blooms. I personally love that one because I life bloom myself if I'm in trouble for increased healing. If a caster is taking a shit ton of damage, I'll cast a life bloom on them because it'll increase the periodic healing on them, and I keep a life bloom 100% up on the tank. Like, that's sort of the play style. But with all that combined, I'm finding there's a lack of throughput. There's a lack of sheer nukeability of throughput, of just being able to spam regrowths and have that shit critting all over the place and topping people up. It's just simply not happening anymore with whatever nerf or whatever they did to the druids recently. That, I feel like that across the board is where druid is struggling. The hots are fine. The hots are great. They're doing its thing for supplemental healing, but we don't have anything that's effective enough to be like, kaboom, you guys are healed to full. Sure, I can pop Convoke and I can dump a bunch of trees, and sure, that keeps people topped up, but druid healing should not have to rely on casting treants and blowing all your cooldowns just to heal people. Like, they really need to buff druid back, right? And it's just, you know, it's frustrating to see the state of druid. But that, if in a nutshell, even though I ramble a lot because it's how I am, that in a nutshell is where I'm struggling with. I'm not struggling with getting hots. I'm not struggling with keeping people topped up. I'm struggling with the fact of when there's bursting going on and I'm using my usual tricks to keep people topped up, and then somebody, you know, say somebody gets targeted or somebody gets hit by like one of those single target bleed effects and they start getting chunked down. I'm spamming my regrowths, I'm spamming my nature swiftness, I'm spamming my swift mend, and no matter what I do, the crits are just not there to heal single target enough to keep them alive. Like, it's not happening. And like I said, like, I'm no savant on shaman, but it's like I'll drop a totem, I'll pop a chain lightning, and on a low crit I'll get like 1.5 million. On a juicy crit, I've seen upwards of like 3+ million on a crit, which is just insane. absolutely insane. Maybe there was other modifiers like did a bunch of my other, you know, things proc to give me bonus synergies, was, you know, tidal waves up and all this other shit. Like, but I'm looking at the numbers that I'm getting on the shaman, the raw numbers I'm seeing pop in front of my face. The druid's not even getting anywhere close to those. And like I said, I know nothing about shaman healing. My shaman is probably close to 10 item levels lower, and he's healing 6 keys and 7 keys and 5 keys and not struggling the way my druid was struggling. So there's definitely there's something missing now. Either Ami's correct and my build is slightly off, and I'm not casting things in a certain sequence, or I don't have certain skills in my trees synergizing properly, which could very well be the case. Or the druid is just in a bad spot like everybody thinks it is, and no matter what I adjust and what I do, they're still going to be at a disadvantage until Blizzard gives them some love. Because I was healing keys prior to the expansion coming out, I had no problem at all. I ran the same build, but now all of a sudden, you know, season 1 has started and they did whatever they did last week to druids or whatever they did to nerf them, and now it feels like the whole build is bricked. And I'm not at the caliber of like these guys where, you know, they're doing these, you know, one-off meta builds because they got a pre-made group built around them and they've built their build to synergize with the other. I'm playing play with like friends, and I'm playing play in public, and I can't guarantee that the group I'm in is going to be synergized around my build. So I don't want to follow one of those top elitist cookie cutter builds, because the variables I'm faced with in random groups is not going to be the same, and the delta is going to be off. So I'm trying to find a borderline between their build and like what I'm seeing on Wowhead and what my play style as a druid is, and I'm trying to sort of min max all that around, right? So yeah, I don't know. I've never been so unsure of druid healing in my entire life, and I've never been forced with a situation where I've strongly considered for an interim time period to pick up a different class up until what they did to druids recently, and the fact that jumping onto a shaman has felt way better and I have less gear and less experience. So yeah, I don't know. This is kind of like a last ditch effort to see if the druid, like I dumped like almost 100k gold just to get my 2 embellished items, and we went into an 8 key and we were just getting bodied by shit, and it almost feels like my healing was worse than when I didn't have the embellished, which literally makes no sense. But it feel like 6 keys I feel great, 7 keys I feel like okay, I gotta heal a little bit harder, but I feel good. That 8 key, it just felt like we just got steamrolled, and I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. So there's definitely either a scaling issue or there's a problem with my setup on my druid. So Ami and I are trying to fix it to see what we can do. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating.
So really quick. So I'll just tell you, I think most druids are in general kind of down bad. It doesn't really matter what spec they are. I'm sure they're getting kind of like a little bit of a rework. I don't know how much Resto is getting.
Yeah.
Probably in a few weeks, because it's sometime in October that they're gonna have.
I heard it was in November. Apparently, is the timeline I heard, but
yeah, I think it's like late October, so it's basically gonna end up being like the same anyways. But
yeah,
even like Sweetleaf, who has been a druid for as long as we have been raiding together, she's never kind of like considered anything else, and even. She said she's gonna be like kind of working on a lot of things, but she's also been like super doomer, and it's kind of been hard to kind of like give a lot of the effort.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to her last night and everything, but we're talking since like before Miss Pandaria that she was playing druid for that long, and rest of druid just raiding with us for nonstop. But just a few tips. Do you have your healing on your details recount? Just like your healing HPS on your meters from that 8 that you can pull up?
Yep. I'm just saving my progress on here. So I'm looking at that thing that you sent me where it's like it's showing like the percentage of like how like what talent is being used at what percent threshold. So I was just looking at that. So this overall data, this one here, you're talking about that thing there?
Oh, okay, no, this is all crystal. Oh, yeah, okay, so Okay, so just really quick, because let me actually screenshot this so you don't have to keep it up on your screen the whole time. Okay, you can go ahead and close that and just open up your talent tree. So I'm assuming this was also before like all these talent trees that you just did, probably like what, a few minutes before I came into Discord, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of looking at your talent build, you know, we'll kind of go through like the percentage things and stuff. The reason why the percentage things are just a little bit more difficult as well is because we're also seeing like the hero trees, which I'm seeing healers in general take Wild Stalker and Keeper of the Grove, probably about equal talents for the hero trees. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting a couple resto druids kind of off on my screen here and kind of seeing what their like healing priority is, and exactly what's doing. So kind of looking at your just your breakdown in general. Your life bloom is very low, and I think with the talents that you did, especially getting more of the what is this, photosynthesis, and also getting the undergrowth, that life bloom healing that you have is definitely going to be a lot more, and then that's going to be primarily where you're getting, I think, a lot of your healing. And not only that, I mean, just being able to keep that up, you're getting more procs of I think it's Omen of Clarity.
Yeah.
So that's also making just like your regrowth be able to be proc.
But
and
see, that's
going to end up being like your best heal.
Yeah.
So just being able to get more of those out, and especially at a free cost, you're saving a lot more mana on that end as well.
But see, that's what strikes me as weird though, because I've been running the Tranquil Mind like I've even got a weak aura that's up that shows me when I have double procs of that. I don't understand. Like I'm looking at the one here where it's like the thing that you sent me, and it's like, okay, so Omen of Clarity 99.8, Flash of Clarity, clear casting regrowths heal for an additional 30%, 99.6. So then why would this one here, which increases the crit chance, which that extra 1% is huge because I constantly have double stacks popping up all the time. So that's giving your clear cast an additional 1 stack. So if Omen of Clarity clearly is being prioritized as a synergy, then why would that not be an additional 1 to have? Because sometimes like, and the reason why I'm questioning why people are not using it is because I've customized a weak aura so that it shows when I have both stacks up, and if I use a stack, it'll show me that I still have a secondary stacks. Sometimes those stacks, when I dump both of my Omen of Clarities, by the time I get to cast another spell, because my life blooms are ticking away, I'll get an instant double stack of Omen of Clarity again. So what my question is without using Tranquil Mind, you only have 1 stack of clear cast. You're not able to cast, if you've got 2 life blooms up, there's a high chance that you're missing reapplications of the clear casting state because you're not able to cast your regrowth fast enough to keep using those extra clear casts, and essentially all you're doing is you're just overlapping the timer and resetting the timer instead of getting the benefit of having double clear cast. Because if you're synergizing your regrowths for an additional 30%, I would think that having 2 procs of clear cast is going to be better than having 1 proc reoccurring, because you may be in a situation where you've got 1 stack of regrowth, but you're having to jump out of the way and dodge a bunch of damage, which means you could have more clear cast constantly trying to reapply itself, but because you're not
healing throughput from that.
Huh?
You're not getting your, like, most of your healing's not coming from that area.
What are you talking about? Look at my heal. My regrowth is 28.7%.
Oh yeah.
But what I'm saying is when you get those clear casting states, it's a free cast for 1. 2, it's increasing it by 30%. But what I'm saying is sometimes, like, I'll have the clear casting proc, and let's just use for the sake of debate over this talent. If I'm not running Tranquil Mind and I've only got the ability to have 1 clear casting state, if I'm running around and I'm not able to cast a spell, those life blooms that constantly tick are just going to keep refreshing the duration. But if I have the ability to have 2 clear casts and I manage to get a clear cast off, and then I'm running around, now all of a sudden I have 2 clear casts waiting. So when I can cast those, I've got 2 of them in the bank instead of 1. And now guess what? I just blew through both of those. Well, guess what? I got lucky and my life bloom ticked twice for the crits, and I ended up getting those double clear casts back. Sometimes you get a drought and you don't get a clear cast, but oftentimes than not, now that I have the weak aura set up to monitor how many Omen of Clarity clear castings I have, I'm having double stacks really frequent, to the point where it makes no sense to not use the skill. But on this thing, it's showing only 20% of the people are using it, which is weird.
So I can already tell you the explanation, but first I want to ask you a question. Then.
Yeah.
What would you drop? What talent would you drop for that? What do you think is the most beneficial talent to actually drop for that extra proc?
Well, on my Ami sent me a picture of what my previous build was. Hold on, I gotta find that one that Ami sent me so I can remember what I had. Hold on 1 second. Direct messages, Ami, image screenshot.
Send it to me as well. Ami, if you still have it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it might be easier for you to look at it than for me to like look at it at the same time.
So
I'm trying to look at that one. I'm trying to look at mine because I've moved some points around and reapplied the changes since then. So like some of the point distributions are off. So my old previous build, I wasn't using reforestation and I wasn't using budding leaves before. So that's where I got the extra point for the Tranquil Mind, and I had the additional points. I had the additional points in Regenesis, which increased the rejuvenation healing by 30%, which I thought was stronger.
Yeah. So just, I mean, you would kind of be giving a lot of those end talents, and those end talents are generally a lot better than whatever like anything on the top would be, outside of kind of like the basic stuff that you usually go.
Okay.
Just to kind of access it.
Yeah.
So the reason people aren't taking Tranquil Mind is because when you're having that double life bloom and all that healing is getting amplified, which your regrowth is still going to be your top, but that life bloom is so. Just looking at like your recount, your life bloom is in 6, and it is not doing any of the healing.
So essentially what you're saying is like I have the spec set up to synergize with life bloom, but I'm missing key synergies to actually benefit life bloom, so it's only like half effective is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to have 2 of those, again, that's going to be a lot of your healing that's kind of coming out. And what that's also doing is because you're having 2 and you always want to have 100% uptime on that. That's your main heal outside of like obviously there's all the other dots.
Yeah, and I'm really good about making sure of that, because like my playstyle for the longest time, ever since they gave the ability to have double life blooms, which I'm pretty sure the double life bloom thing was from the legendary item you created in Legion. I'm pretty sure is what originally. So ever since then, I've adopted the playstyle of the double life blooms. Like I used to have weak auras to like track it, but I'm at the point where I really don't need it because I know what to look for. So yeah, so I'm really good with keeping on top of the double proc. So I guess this whole time I was not doing it for,
Right.
Okay.
So I would always try keeping one on the tank, because there's just going to be taking a lot of damage regardless, and also one on yourself, and you're keeping that because of photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the heals that's being applied to you, but it's also just making other heals on other people a little bit faster. When you're going into hierarchies and you're doing Keeper of the Grove, which a lot of people still are doing, the capstone or the choice node kind of above photosynthesis, the one that you said, Master Shapeshifter, I would switch that back to liveliness.
Well, that's what I was originally using was liveliness, but the one that I'm seeing from the thing that you sent me is showing that 96.4% people are using.
If you hover over it,
Yeah.
Because it is a choice node, it shows like 40%, 59%.
Okay.
All of those choice nodes. If you hover over those, it kind of
okay. Like, because I kind of, and like I said, this is just what I've recently changed since Ami and I have been sort of trying to help me out and figure it out. My only assumption is, because I've gone ahead and gotten rid of the improved Sunfire stuff for the damage, I kind of figured that having 30% increased damage to the Wrath plus the mana gain, because when I'm haste procking, like I'm using like the candlestick, my haste is so fast, especially with the stacking buff that we get in the current tier. My haste is so fast that for me to spam wild growths, I'm gonna do more damage than if I was spamming Sunfires. But the amount of mana I would get back, like it would just allow me to just completely like go shit nuts on my mana pool and just completely dump as much mana as I could, because I would have the ability to regen so much more. But realistically, I don't have mana problems with the druid, so that's why I never really went that route. So you think go back to liveliness then?
Yeah, I think going back to liveliness.
Okay.
And this again, it kind of goes back to that whole Trinkle Mine argument of like, okay, you're gonna have 2 free casts. Those 2 free casts don't matter when you're having all these hots being able to ramp up a lot faster, that you're basically getting as many regrowth free casts as you can basically on global cooldown with Trinkle Mine anyways. So you're not really losing much there.
Okay.
You're just going to be able to get more of those regrowths, and you're not healing multiple people.
Okay.
You're not healing a raid. So being able to apply a lot of those hots, it's a lot easier in a Mythic Plus setting,
okay,
as you know, than in like a raid setting, right?
Okay. And back in so in Legion I used Abundance, but in Shadowlands I use the Cenarian Ward, and I still have my macro set up for Cenarian Ward, and I used to love Cenarian Ward.
I would take Cenarian Ward. A lot of these keys, how they're basically made, a lot of the healing in the keys is, a lot of times there's a lot of burst damage.
Yeah.
And sometimes, well, I'd say more during the bosses that there's a lot of burst damage. But on Trash especially, which I think is where kind of druids are going to be having a little bit more of a hard time, is you need to have something to basically protect whatever specific person that is. Tanks are usually fine, but if somebody's getting casted on, and especially if it's like a lot of range in that group, there's not going to be a lot of interrupts going out. So being able to get that Cenarian Ward out on the people that are going to be taking damage, or even people that are for sure, like, if I don't have something on them right away, they're going to die. That's something that you probably want Cenarian Ward over. There's like a few people, it's still a good percentage, that are taking Abundance, but again, if you look at Abundance, its regrowth cost is reduced, and critical, like the crit is nice, but
well, that's massive, because usually I keep rejuves, like I don't usually spam rejuves like just willy-nilly. Like I'll like, if everybody's topped up and I know there's about to be some damage happening, I'll just precast rejuves. So 5 rejuves at 8%, that's a 40% increase in crit chance for my regrowth, not including my passive crit where it's already at. So essentially I would have like over 60% crit chance, which normally on a regrowth, bang, 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 you're critting like a monster. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not doing what it normally should be doing. Which is like, there's something happening to the coefficients that it has like bricked it, and it's like even with having almost 70% crit chance, the regrowths are hitting for shit. There's like no throughput in them. So like I said, that's where I'm. So you think to completely abandon Abundance and go back to using Cenarian Ward then?
I think for keys.
Okay, hold on. I'm just going to hold on. I'm gonna apply that, and then I'm gonna go in and grab my macro for Cenarian Ward. I'm gonna macro that. Yeah, because I used to have Cenarian Ward like on my thumb button, and you can see here that this so what I was using is originally what I was doing is when I had really shitty gear, which I still do. So essentially this, I'm not sure if you're still watching my stream, but to give you the idea of my play style used to be synergized around Cenarian Ward. I gave up Cenarian Ward to go for abundance, because what I was using is this golden glow sensor. Now, Cenarian Ward heals them for 463 hit points, right? Over 8 seconds. So yes, it's another healing over time, which is going to benefit from mastery, yes. But it's also on a 30-second cooldown, right? Now, this one here gives an absorb shield of 620,000. Now, whether it's healing them or absorbing, effective health is effective health. This one is giving almost 200,000 more effective health, whether it's raw health or damage mitigation, for 15 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown. So technically that 15 seconds from the 1 minute, 45-second uptime, essentially they're both up and they're both down pretty close to the same amount of time. Maybe the delta's different by like 10 seconds less, whatever. But my whole thing is, like, I was using this thing here, and I already had a macro set up for a macro here, and in my heal bot, on my spells, you can see I have it set up as my button 4, because what I figured is, hey, instead of using the Cenarian Ward, I'm gonna cheat and use Golden Glow as like a makeshift Cenarian Ward, and then take abundance to balance it out. But the problem is like all the guides I'm seeing are saying the empowering crystal and the candle wick, and when I'm simming this stuff, these are showing as stronger than that. So I left it on my bar, but I gave up going that route, even though it's a hero-based item. So I don't know, should I go back to using that and use Cenarian Ward as well and have like double the amount of shields and shit, or is that just too much?
I think that's more like a personal thing. If you think you need it, I think the other trinkets are going to pull ahead anyways. And sims for healers are very weird anyways, where they're not as accurate as they should be, just because it's kind of hard to tell exactly like.
But do you think I was onto something by doing that, by using this and replace a Cenarian Ward and keeping abundance? Or do you think?
And, I don't think abundance is. I think that's just another shield that you can apply. It's an extra heal. It's another oh shit button to save a specific person. I don't think abundance is. I think still having Cenarian Ward is a good thing to have.
Now the only downside is, like, this one's great, lots of effective health, damage mitigation, etc. But this one just seems way too. Even though this one's like a shitty item level one, like 2600 of a main stat or a secondary stat for 20 seconds just seems super freaking strong over this.
And it's still going to be stronger, I think, in general, because you're getting more of that stat that you want.
But wouldn't the scaling of the 403 intellect increase with all the multiplicative gains from everything else equate to higher healing than to have the secondary stat? Like, what's the sense of? But then it comes down to the coin toss. What's up?
I feel like this time around, a lot of the secondary stats have definitely been more beneficial.
Okay.
Than just like completely dropping it.
Okay.
Or an on-use kind of thing. That's
okay.
Be, a minute cooldown. And it's like, it's gonna help you, but I think in the long term, especially, when people are taking more damage than just in a minute.
Okay, so
that's gonna help.
Okay, so we're ditching that skill. These top 3 are fine. This one here, obviously, this one here, waste the time, which I already know. This one are good. This one, obviously, that's a no-brainer. Grove Guarding, no-brainer. Cultivation, I've already had. This one here, yes. This one here. Now, I'm seeing people putting 57% into Unstoppable Growth, and I used to have points in Unstoppable... fuck, I have to pull up the one that Ami sent me again. Hold on.
So I can tell you what the difference is there. So those Iron Bark talents that you have on the right side, improved Iron Bark and regenerative Heartwood.
Yeah.
You have a choice between taking those and making your Iron Bark a lot stronger.
Okay.
And again, that's going to be either to save the tank or just to save any individual or even as a personal.
Oh, I use it as like big time utility. Like sometimes it's on the tank, or sometimes if I notice like a range or squishy's taking damage, I'll prioritize them. Like, for instance, if I know Ami's got his cooldowns and he's doing all right, I won't blow it on him. I'll blow it on like a squishier caster. Like if I know they're out of position and they're about to take a buttload of damage, I'll pop it on them and put a couple healings, because it increases the healing that I get from like rejuvenations and other, which is going to be bolstered by how many other hots I have on them, which is going to be reflected by the mastery passive, which is for every amount of, you know, hot you have on a target, they get increased healing. So I'll synergize that on like an adjacent. So for me, I have a lot of utility in that. But you think that maybe going the improved one for the cooldown reduction is a waste of a talent point then, even though it shows like 58% of the people are using it? Like, you think sacrifice that and put that one into unstoppable? So you think pull the point out of that and put it into the unstoppable growth?
No. I think if you're going the Iron Bark route, which I think it's more beneficial than the Unstoppable Growth.
Okay.
Just keep those two.
Okay.
To kind of help.
Because I'm looking at the percent. Yeah, I'm looking at the percentage, and they're pretty much identical. And I don't think my old previous build, I don't think I had Unstoppable Growth on it from what I remember.
Yeah, and your Wild Growth, I don't think it's going to be like by the time you cast it, I don't think you really need to keep it up there for too long.
No, and the improved Wild Growth doesn't really matter, because I don't need that extra heal on there, because it already heals up to 5 injured allies in the first place. I would say that would be like a raid talent to have that on there. So yeah, I mean, that one, you know, no, I don't want best views. Possible ban evader. Yeah, because I keep banning you guys. Get out of my chat. Get out of here. Get banned, sucker. Get banned, bro. Sorry about that. Okay, so okay, this is good. I personally, I'm not an incarnation guy, so I'm happy to see that there's a huge percentage of people that are going for Convoke versus the tree. But this is what the crazy thing is, though, which to me was really weird. You look at the people that aren't doing the cat weaving, the ones that are doing the Keeper of the Grove. A lot of them are using the Tree of Life incarnate build instead of Convoke. For me, I feel like there's way more synergy for Convoke. There's way more utility for Convoke, especially in situations where you need to have that added little bit of damage to, you know, like last week when you had to destroy those orb thingies. Sometimes I would pop Convoke to heal everybody, and I'd be standing near the orbs, so like all of my like AoE like thrashes and shit would like destroy them as well, right? So I feel like there's a lot of synergy with it, which is why I've kept Convoke. But yeah, I mean, that's where I think I'm drawing a lot of confusion, because you've got things on Wildhead telling you one thing, you have things on like this thing that you showed me telling me one thing, but then you have people that are actually putting it to real world practice, which are clearly clearing keys because they've got the Raider IO, but they're not running these builds, and it makes me go, why? The only thing I can come back to is that they've built their characters specifically around, they're running a certain tank with a certain gear setup and a certain skill setup. They're running a certain type of DPS comp, and that's the reason why they're going off meta, is my only guess, right? And because I'm not able to play at that play style, because I can't guarantee the groups that I'm going to be synergizing with, I need to try to find the best blend of like everything together, right? So
yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of this stuff is going to be like experimentation for the most part. There's
okay.
Going to be times or even specific dungeons where it's not necessarily the comp, but you also got to look at the dungeon.
Right.
Like, okay, is there going to be a lot of group healing? And again, I mean, you've ran a lot of keys. It just kind of comes with practice and understanding. Okay, well, this key is going to have a lot more single target specific abilities, or this encounter is going to have more of the AoE healing that I know I'm going to struggle with. So at that point, you can start kind of like adjusting the cooldowns. For Convoke the Spirits in Incarnation, majority of people are taking Convoke the Spirits, but there are, like you said, a few that are taking Incarnation. I think Convoke the Spirits is better because it is a 2-minute cooldown, so you'll be able to kind of like adapt.
One minute cooldown.
Yeah, which it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Even when I was doing like my Warlock and I had like a 3-minute cooldown compared to 2, it was miserable.
So now
even that extra minute.
Yeah.
And another reason why people aren't really taking incarnation is because that the capstone talent that you weren't taking before on the bottom right, reforestation.
Which one?
And the very bottom right talent that you did take.
Oh, this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing, because this thingy here. So before I even saw the build that Ami and I were looking at before, I was tempted to play with this, because back in the day I used to have the legendary item that was made in Legion, and I still have the item inside my bank that would give you the double Swiftmends. So this used to be how my old play style was, and what I would do, like I said before when we were talking about the flourish, is like if I knew like we were in a key where there was going to be a, like remember in Shadowlands and in Legion there was one of those dungeons where like you have like a big like Yeti or a big fucking dude, and he would throw a bunch of balls out that would come behind you and you would have to stop the balls, but then he would do a bunch of pulsing damage. I think it was the same rate, the same mythic dungeon where there was like a bunch of like vampire dudes that did a bunch of blood damage or some shit. Yeah, it was whatever that boss was. There was so much spiky damage, but I feel like it was in Legion that I used that setup, and not because I think the legendary item was called Verdant Infusion. But it gave essentially the same prosperity passive that has the double Swiftman. And what I would do is like what I said before, is I would cast all my hots on the characters I needed to. I would then cast Flourish, and then I would prop my Swiftmends on 2 targets, which would take the added healing increase, the added duration increase of every hot, and then I would ramp that up with double Swiftmen procs, which would throw like the duration of that through the roof at the same time. But the problem with doing that is because you weren't using because I was using the Verdant Infusion weapon, now that we don't have those items to use that, now you have to be careful that when you use a Swiftman to heal over time, you have to go back to the play style in Legion or the other one before, where you would have to essentially cast your hots on a target in a way where you would block your beneficial heal over times with a shitty heal over time. So when you casted Swiftmen, it would consume the shittier one and not consume the good one that you want on the target. And I haven't played that playstyle in a long time, and that's what worries me about not having Verdant Infusion, is like if I'm in a haste, I'm casting Swiftmen, all of a sudden, oops, I removed that, that empowered nature swiftness regrowth on the target. Fuck me. You know what I mean? So I was a little bit hesitant going back to that playstyle, but I thought about the prosperity with the reforestation instead of going Tree of Life, because I'm thinking, fuck, 2 things of Swiftmend. Essentially, it's on the same sort of cooldown and timer as the Grove Guardians, and essentially you can essentially cast a Swiftmend, wait a little bit for the cooldown to start ramping up, cast another one. By the time you get the Tree of Life for another 10 seconds after the 3rd Swiftmend, guess what? 5 seconds later, you've already got a Swiftmend charge ready to go. 10 seconds later, you've got your second one. Next thing you know, you're back into your tree form. So I was thinking about doing that, but I never bothered to go that route, because pretty much I kind of didn't give up on Druid, but I started to focus my priority on Shaman and figuring out the Shaman, so I kind of never went back to revisit it. So it's interesting to see that this is one of the routes people are going. It kind of makes me believe, like, before I second guess myself, my thought processes based on previous expansions. Now, granted, we had crafted items that unlocked these talents. Now we don't have the crafted items. They're in a talent tree. At least it makes me feel good that my method of thinking was on the right path. I just didn't give myself a chance to get myself there, and I didn't spec my character out properly, essentially, right? So, I feel better going this route, as you said, like taking this and doing the tree. I don't want to go to Incarnate. I think the amount of healing you get from bumping, so essentially you get the same amount of convokes. You get 3 convokes for 1 tree incarnation, and I feel like for most of the encounters you're gonna bump tree for most of the duration of tree. It's gonna be wasted, because you're gonna heal people, and then all of a sudden there's a lull between the next spam. By the next spam time that comes out, the cooldown's off and you've run out of it anyway. Whereas this one here, you can I usually stagger my convoke and my trees. You know, I'll use a tree, I'll drop a convoke, then I'll wait, then I'll drop a tree, then I'll drop another, then I'll drop a convoke, and I sort of use them like that. So yeah, I think you know, you're right. Keeping the synergy of the two of those makes more sense.
Again, like you said, it's actually a minute. I don't know where that.
Yeah, it's a minute. It used to be 2 minute, but I think they reduced it in Shadowlands because people were bitching that it was like way too long of a cooldown, which, you know, it is what it is.
And again, having it like, I mean, you're basically getting it every pull at that point.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so essentially it looks like I'm just eyeballing everything that I have right now. It looks like everything aside from these two here that are a little bit in question. It's either the difference of getting rid of these two here and putting points in here or not. I mean, for me, I think Wild Growth's falling off 15% fat or 50% less over time does have a certain strength of a synergy, because it's just going to give more uptime for the Druid Mastery passive to gain effect, which is every hot you have on your regrowths get more healing benefit from it. So I mean, there's sort of a trade-off, right? Full all out damage mitigation or more synergy with having your hot. So it's like damage mitigation versus whether or not you're going to have enough healing throughput to either be more than the damage mitigation, or if it's going to be less. I feel like it's one of those crossroads where if you're geared to a certain level, the unstoppable growth and improved wild growth is probably the route, or not improved wild growth, but at least the unstoppable growth is the route to go. If you're not at that certain gear level threshold, then probably taking regenerative heartwood or taking the improved ire bark is probably going to be the better route, right?
Right.
But even so, I mean, fuck, that extra 20 seconds. I mean, like, I almost feel like, but then if I lose that, then I lose this one as well, too. Allies protected by your Embark receive 75% of the healing from each of your active rejuves, and Embark's duration increase. Like, that's huge. Like,
no,
that's huge. It just makes no sense not to have that.
Yeah. So I will hold on to that, and you know, feel free to experiment with you know, those talents and stuff. But I'd stick with that Iron Bark. You know, be ready to use it a little bit more often and just kind of adjust to it.
Yeah.
The only other change from your spec tree is basically done.
So well, here's a quick question to ask for you though. I used to do like cat weaving in keys back before cat weaving was even a thing, just because it's like you did like added damage. So like I would pop into what I did before cat weaving was a thing is like I would have like all of my gear for resto, but I would have like one best in slot trinket that was designed to like boost like kitty damage. And what I would do is I would just pop into cat form and I would bang out a convoke. And I would do it primarily to synergize with like a heroism, because I would be able to spam, you know, my abilities like my rake and stuff on cat form to get those 5 stacks to hit my execute to constantly do that. That's how I used to do it. But now, right now, I'm not really going that route. I'm not taking the improved Sunfire, the improved stuff. So really, I'm almost wondering. I'm almost wondering if
let's take a look at your class tree then, because there are going to be quite a bit of changes that we're going to do there.
Yeah, because I'm almost thinking about taking out those 2 points out of Instinctive Claw and put it into something that's going to synergize, like, because for me, I think that especially right now, like movement speed is so crucial in a lot of the content that's happening. That split second to be able to move out of stuff is massive, especially when the reason why I went Worgen on a druid was for the Dark Flight passive. To have that 10% movement speed for 40 seconds on a short cooldown it's dividends, because when you've got Stampeding Roar and cooldown and you've got Tiger's Dash, you're fucked. And there's been so many times where this Dark Flight has helped me out that for me, I love to prioritize movement speed because that's like in my kit. So, I mean, looking at what's here, I feel like it's pretty much bang on to a T of what I'm seeing on your class talent thing that you sent me. Aside from, I'm not going down for these improved things here. And I'm not going for the improved here. I'm really not focusing on doing added damage right now. So would you think it'd be better to pull these instinctive ones out and put them in to something like Rejuve's duration increased by an extra 3 seconds? Because we're not using the passive over here that gives you the ability to pop 2 regrowths, plus we're not using the unstoppable growth, which allows our WoW growths to stay on longer. Or would you say not go that route and keep it where it is?
So I wouldn't go into so what you do want, especially for Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
And I think just Druid in general. That very bottom left capstone, the well-honed instincts.
Yeah.
You want that for survivability. So we at this point need to find a way to what can we drop to get that talent.
Okay.
What I would do is,
well, Ami and I when we were talking, he was talking about like improved stampeding roar and Heart of the Wild. And normally normally I would agree with Heart of the Wild if I was doing cat synergy for the damage boost, but because I'm not going that route, I feel like these two, because before I never had these 2 points. I believe in my, I think you have the in the screenshot of my old talent tree. Did I have these 2 and I didn't have these 2, or did I never have these 2? Because I feel like I used to have these 2. I never had them.
The stampeding and Heart of the Forest. Yeah, you didn't have those.
No, but I'm saying I know that, but I'm saying, did I have the oak skin and the well-honed instincts before?
You just had the, see. You had the oak skin before.
So I didn't have the well-honed instincts because I used to use that back in the day on one of the expansions. I'm not sure if it was Shadowlands or if it was Legion, but I used to use that one as like an oh shit fail-safe kind of a thing. So you think go back to using that and dump these 2 then?
I would get rid of improved Stampeding Roar and Heart of the Wild and just put that into well-honed.
Yeah, because for me oak skin sounds way too freaking strong. An additional 10% damage while bark skin is up. Plus I already have a point in improved bark skin, so it almost seems like having improved bark skin, there's no point if you don't have oak skin. It's like you're missing half of your synergy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those 2 are in there. Okay.
So the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change is your right above the instincts. There's the Matted Fur and Ursine Vigor.
Yeah.
I think Ursine.
Well,
is probably the weaker one.
So the reason why I use this one here is because I often mitigate a lot of the spike damage that's coming in, because I'll pop into bear form and I'll pre-cast a frenzied gen because I know I'm take a bunch of spike damage, or if like I'm in a situation like Arakara City of Echoes on the last boss, when you get rooted by the purple pools, I'll pop into bear form to break that root, and I like to have the added health and the added armor in case for whatever reason there's like one of those AoE pools underneath me and I can't avoid them both. It's kind of giving me that extra oh shit safety net. Just because for the most part I synergize, I don't have improved iron fur on here, but like, I've got like this one here, the frenzied regen, and then I've got obviously the verdant heart as well. So I figured that would, not a lot of people shape shift into bear form to mitigate damages, whereas me, that's always been my play style. So that's why I like to have that is like I'm constantly going in and out of that form, like throughout the dungeon. Like whenever I know I have a chance to go into that form when I don't have to cast a heal, but it's going to allow me to like soak damage, I go into that form. So I'm kind of inclined to not want to get rid of that. What's your thought though? Which one are you thinking to get rid of and keep? You think keep Matted Fur and get rid of this one though?
Can you go to Matted Fur?
Yeah.
See. I'd probably get rid of Matted Fur
because
the absorb that you get there isn't as beneficial. I mean, it's 200k. That's like
So you think keep the Earth sign vigor and get rid of matted fur?
Yeah. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put that up to Skull Bash, which is just above that talent.
I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I've never ever been a skull basher on a druid ever. Never. I've never once been a skull basher. Because I don't like being that close in melee range, because sometimes what would happen is like I would go into like skull bash, and like there'd be like a group of like 5 characters, and it just so happened that a mob did its AoE cleave, and then I get one shotted and like shit like that you can't avoid. So for me, the two things I've never used as a druid, because I don't like the playstyle, I've never used skull bash, and I've never used wild charge. I don't like wild charge at all.
What's wild charge do?
That's the one where it's like,
I know Boomy is like a disengage. That one's just a fly. What is it for the other? So bear form is charge, cat's a leap, travel form is a leap forward. You can't travel form in indoors, right? At all.
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't think so.
Okay, because I mean that one's up to you. But the reason why people take wild charge, especially if there's another range, is it's 15 seconds. And when you have something, if people are spread out and there's something that's on you, you can just move a lot quicker than waiting for a 45-second cooldown for like a tiger stash. It takes a little bit to get used to, I'm sure, but when you're having a 30-second difference, especially on a high mobility ability, I just think wild charge is really good. If you don't want to take skull bash, that's fine. The other thing that I would recommend is maybe incapacitating roar, and that's still something that you have to be a little bit close, but there's not anything you have to specifically target. And
well,
especially there's so much things to interrupt, and so much thing, even like smaller casts. There's just so much damage. So anything that you can do to mitigate that, and even like incapacitating.
What I'm wondering though is I'm trying to find. So this one here, where it says when you use Barkskin or Survival Instincts, I can't find Survival Instincts anywhere to figure out what that ability is.
Survival Instincts, I don't know if that's just a...
Because it's not well honed in...
bear form.
What?
Is it baseline? Like, is it a talent?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, if it's... Or Survival Instincts. Yeah. Oh, Survival Instincts. Isn't that one that the Guardian Druids use?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Guardian Druid one. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, that one. So yeah, that one is going to be useless then, because I mean, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, 214k absorb is kind of, because essentially the bark skin is just the main purpose of the bark skin is going to be for its normal damage reduction and increased healing, but to synergize with that. So you're saying dump that one?
Yep. Yeah, just dump them at it for the roar or skull bash. Is it? You're gonna need to have some way to stop things, especially if, again, it's a full range group where there's not a lot of available interrupts. Again, I think skull bash in general is going to be better, and that's just something that you have to adjust to what has frontals, and kind of wherever your tank is positioned to make sure you're not getting killed by those frontals.
Yeah, because I'm assuming incapacitating roar could potentially be wasted if you proc it and you're not within 10 yards of enemies, whereas this one here, it guarantees that you charge an enemy, right?
Yeah. The also the other problem with like just roars and like disorientating things is when there's casts that need to be interrupted, those stuns, and just like any stuns that's not a direct interrupt, they don't cancel that cast, they just delay them. And there's a lot of mobs in this season that need to be interrupted and just be dealt with pretty quickly.
But see, the thing is though, is that It's essentially a wash. It's the same thing, because this one here interrupts any school of magic from being cast for 3 seconds. Well, this one here, when you're incapacitating the vehicle, you're putting them in a daze, which means they're essentially stunned for 3 seconds anyway. But this is all enemies. So in situations where mobs are grouped, in a lot of the dungeons, they're all casting stuff that needs to be kicked or interrupted. This would seem like the stronger one, because what I would do is, if I had, like, say there was like a group and I saw them getting cast off, I would smash my Tiger's Dash as soon as I'm in range. I would hit Incapacitating Roar, and that's going to automatically shift me into Bear. Whereas this one here, I have to shift into Bear and then use the Skull Bash. I wouldn't be able to just Skull Bash, because I would have to be. So by the time I hit Bear form, that's another full global cooldown before I can even hit this. Depending on how far away I was, that cast is probably already off. Whereas this one here, there's no global cooldown. Literally, I hit this, I automatically go into Bear form, and I instantly cast it. So I think I'm going to go this route, I think, at least for now, just to test it.
Yeah. Sure. I just think having one or the other is definitely a choice that you want to do.
Yeah. Okay, one thing I'm going to do as well, too, and I don't know why I already have it. I've got too much shit cluttered here. Like, I want this. Hold on, I got to change something here. I don't even know why I didn't even have this the first time. This is just weird. Sorry, give me a sec. I don't even know why I didn't have this over here. Edit mode. We're going to put this one over here. Fuck. Grab the wrong one. Hold on, give me a second. I don't know why, because all my other characters, I've got this 6 bar. I don't know why I didn't have that one already there. I don't know. That's weird to me. Okay, so now we're gonna put my thing here. This one, we're gonna put this one back. Where was it? Actually, no, we got to put the extra action button here, because now we got to make room for the... Okay, so... Okay, because I don't need to have these things up here. I want to have these ones over here. Yeah. I'm going to put these ones up here like this. And I'm going to put these ones like that. I don't need Wild Charge, Cenarian Ward. This one we're getting... I'll keep that one for now, just in case. So Cenarian Ward, we need to... We do have Cenarian Ward, right? We have that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one here... Before I forget, spells, did I spell it wrong? Cenarion. Whoops. Cenarian Ward. Okay, so that's going to be... Okay, perfect. Okay, that's good. Yeah, because I mean, honestly, the two of these synergized together would be pretty juicy, especially if I was to flourish, because the flourish would flourish because Cenarian Ward gets boosted by Swiftmend, it also gets boosted by flourish as well. I'm almost wondering if this would get boosted by flourish and Swiftmend, but I guess probably not, right?
Yeah, well, you don't take flourish anyways for keys.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we now? So we were... Okay, so we've got the roar, which is here, which is perfect, because I can literally, like, if I see a cast is going off, literally, bam, pop this, get near them, bam, instantly cast that, and they're stunned, or I can hit one of these ones to do the same thing. Okay, so those are there, okay. And we've already got this stuff here. This one, we don't need to have that one there. Incapacitating Roar, I don't need to have that on the bar. We'll put this one here. We'll put this one here. And then I like to keep this one on here in case if for whatever reason I'm ever in bear form and I notice, hey, I've only got a second left on my cooldown, I could just cast that, it pops me into this, and then bam, I'm into healing again. So I've got that sort of synergized on the bear. Just to kind of make sense. And I have the same thing on the cat too. But I think we're gonna put prowl over here. We're gonna put this one here. Thrash, rip, rake. Okay, we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get this one here. Rake, this one here, this one here. Thrash, we're gonna do this one here. Rip. Okay, so we've got that one set up a little bit better for that one there. We're gonna get rid of this. Okay, that one there, that one there, that one there. You know what they should have done to have this form? They should have, like, realistically, what they should do to Druid is this form here is absolutely useless. Like, why have a treant form if there's no benefit? I would think that being in treant form should give like a passive, like 3%, either like a 3% increased duration to all hots, or like some sort of a healing synergy. Like, I've always said this for like the life of me, that this form is absolutely useless because nobody's gonna, I mean, maybe people that want to be like, hey, I'm a tree, are gonna be in this form, but nobody is ever in this fucking form. People are always in this form when they heal. So this just kind of feels like it's like this used to be, yeah, Lo, you're right. Back in the day, this used to be the healer form. I think they need to bring that back, to synergize that back with healers for druids. They need to bring this back and to have a benefit. They have a benefit of everything else. Now at this point, this is just a cosmetic, a useless cosmetic. Because I personally like the look of my character more than this. Right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I know, before in the olden days. Sorry, Pooh Bear. Back to what we were doing. I'm just talking to some people in chat. Okay, so does this look like we're essentially bang on where we need to be then?
Yeah, the only other thing, and this is kind of split, so it's kind of whatever you want to do on this one. This is the hero tree. The capstone, I think, on the left side.
Which hero tree? You're talking about like this one here in the middle?
Yeah, the middle one.
Okay.
Capstone on the left side, the middle left.
Oh, this one here for your girl. Yeah. So essentially I did this one here because what I'm thinking is fuck, where was it? There was something over here where you could take a talent that was like an improved Nourish or something, and I figured if the Grove Guardians is casting Nourish, it's going to synergize with it. Also, what I'm wondering is with this one here, the Verdant Infusion, I originally had this because I thought that there was a synergy, because essentially if the Grove Guardian is casting a Swift Mend, if they Swift Mend a target, is it going to get benefit from the Verdant Infusion?
I don't think so. I think they're on their own thing.
Okay, so then if that's the case, you think...
I mean, they cast those anyways, regardless. Even without that talent. The only thing that the talent does is just that minor Cenarian ward, which personally, I don't think it's worth it. The Cenarian ward, the minor Cenarian ward there.
Okay.
Tree is, it could probably take less than a hit. It's
okay.
Little damage with however high.
Whereas the Rejuvenation, Efflorescence, and Life Bloom, it's more multiplicative for the 10%?
Yeah, I think the 10% is a lot better, especially with everything else you have going on.
Okay. So switch that one out? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's the reason why I had that one synergized with this one, is because I figured, okay, if the Grove Guardians are essentially casting your spells and they're linked to you, I figured, okay, Blizzard's probably put in a passive in there, kind of like, you know how in like certain games, like especially like Diablo style games, where if you have like a passive where like you select an ability, but you have an ability that auto casts that ability, you no longer have to have that main ability equipped as long as you have the passive equipped, because if another source is casting the same spell, it's going to benefit from the synergy of it without you having to physically cast the spell. So that's kind of why I had those synergize as my method of thought, was going, okay, shit, if they're casting Swift Mend, I take this, and that's whatever character they cast the Swift Mend on, it's gonna be the same thing as if I do a hard cast of Swift Mend. So that's, you know, sort of the route I was thinking. But you're thinking that's not the case then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you still want to keep that two charges of Swiftman.
Okay.
Just that much better for more procs of the.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens when this tree of life incarnate pops up. What kind of an interesting sort of, because that's sort of like a play style changer, because now you can sort of, you know, cast this, cast that, and then sort of figure out when you want to cast your Swiftmans and when you want to proc your tree of life. Like, you know, maybe when Convoke and the trees are on cooldown, you know, pop the candlestick, pop a tree of life, because I'm pretty sure tree of life, if I remember correctly, it makes your regrowths instant cast instead of a 1.2. So it's like, instead of casting this and casting this, you could use this. Like when Candlestick is on cooldown and Convoke is on cooldown, you could bang your Swiftmans, use your tree, your instant casting regrowths until you have this off cooldown, which is a shit ton of haste, right? So, okay. Okay, so is there anything else? I mean, for now, I'm gonna not go this route, because honestly, the amount of damage, to have the points in here.
No, just focus on your healing.
Yeah, I think this is just a waste. I don't think there's enough damage output to warrant having these in there. Same thing with having, but see, the thing is like, okay, so that being said, because I'm not really like yes, on certain fights, especially when there's a heroism, if I know there's not a lot of initial bursty damage when they pop hero, what I'll do is I'll wait on Convoke and I'll still pop in a kitty form. But that being said, do you think having 2 points in this is a waste because I'm not focused on damage? And is there anything else on the, like, should I take one? Oh, I can't. Fuck. Okay, well, never mind.
You can't, yeah.
Shit. I thought maybe I could take a point out of here, put the point in here for the extra 3-second duration, but you can't, because now it locks out these ones, right? So
yeah, the duration honestly doesn't matter, and
okay,
it's just keys.
Okay,
it's yeah, I mean,
okay,
that's easy to reapply anyways. The only thing I would change is the very top where you have Thrash. I would switch that over to Rip. So yeah, that one, and then.
The only thing is, when I'm in cat form and I'm casting Convoke and I'm mashing Shred, is I'm always using this one here because it's got way more damage than, oh, maybe not, because this is damage over time instead of this. So what I've been doing is, because I'm synergizing my Convoke with heroism, because of the attack speed and the constant rage or fury or whatever regen. I'm casting this and I'm spamming 5 stacks of this really quick. But you still think that doing this one is going to be better than this then?
Yeah, the Rip I think is better than Thrash anyways. Thrash is just AoE, and honestly, I think when it comes to Trash, you're not going to be doing a lot of damage anyway.
Okay, so okay, okay. Should I then just get rid of this one off because there's no sense trying to prioritize one or the other? Or you think put the bleed on and then do another 5 stack and then bang this one out? Or do you think just keep reapplying the bleed is better?
You just get the Rip, because I think the more combo points you have, it's more
so don't even bother. So don't even bother having this on the bar. Just get rid of it completely then.
No. You can still use that
okay.
I'm pretty sure like the first 30 seconds of the boss, or even like the first 10-15 seconds, there's not a lot of damage going out anyways. Hey, so you just want to maximize your uptime on damage.
Settle down, Des. Settle down, brother. I'm always down to learn druid stuff. I never said I was like a druid aficionado. I just said I've been healing on druid, and it's like for like 15 years and I know them inside and out. But clearly maybe there's things I've overlooked, which is why I'm learning new stuff. But yeah, I guess you can call it a miracle. I just feel blessed that I have friends like Ami and friends like Pooh Bear that are willing to take the time to listen to me rant for like 3 hours and like microanalyze, what's going on in my brain and how I think shit's supposed to work. And they're actually working with me to like get me to like make changes. So yeah. Actually, to further that, I spent like 100k gold, which normally I don't do because I'm kind of frugal with my shit. I usually wait till shit's cheaper, but I went ahead and I built my best in slot embellished bracers and my best in slot weapon with like the best in slot enchant on it. So I'm making my efforts that I can to try to see if I can keep my hopes of Druid alive, because the whole goal of coming back to WoW was to get back into competitive Mythic Plus. In Legion, I was battling another Druid for Realm first for keys. And at that time, I think we were like 22 or 2300 score. We were doing like 19s to 20s. And back in those days with like the Trim Evade stuff, those were insanely high keys. Maybe by Shadowlands standards, I think they were doing keys well past the 24s and 25s at a certain point. So I mean, you know, that's where I'm trying to get back to. But yeah, I'm blessed that I've got, you know, people that are willing to help me out instead of being like, hey man, struggle on your own, bro. So overlooked day, you did actually know it all, just overlooked. Yep, just giving yanking for change. Yeah, I know, but it's true though. So to be fair, there were certain things that, because there's been a lot of changes with the class that I wasn't familiar with, a lot of my old thought processes and play styles were in place. Like, for instance, I wasn't using Prosperity with the tree form. I was using Verdant Infusion with this skill here, thinking that, hey, when my Grove Guardians cast Swiftmen, the Swiftmen is going to get a passive gain from the Verdant Infusion, because back in Legion, Verdant Infusion was one of the main abilities you used on a crafted legendary item to have the double. So I figured, hey, if I'm casting Treants and they're casting Swiftmen's, it's a no-brainer. But apparently that's not how it's working. And this whole time I was synergizing for a build that literally has no synergy. So, you know, that's kind of on my part. So Pooh Bear's kind of been helping me out, and Ami as well too. But I think Ami's already gone to bed now at this point. He's tired of listening to me rant. But Pooh Bear's helped me out. So yeah, we're making some much needed changes. Whether or not I'm going to get into an 8 key and all of a sudden, holy crap, it's like the second coming of Athalagos the Druid, and like all of a sudden my throughput's at 1 million instead of like 600k. I mean, I don't know. But you know, I'm trusting their advice. I'm trusting the process that, hey man, the way you were doing it was like an old synergy and you like messed up and you had some talent points allocated to stuff that realistically had no improvement whatsoever to like what you were trying to do. Like I had like the thing to do double life blooms on my targets, but I was missing other points that was synergizing with life blooms. So like I was only getting half effectiveness of what I was really supposed to be doing. And that's just me, you know, it just, you know, I'm human, I make mistakes. You know, I look at a character the way I think it needs to be played based on what I'm used to and based on my own knowledge of how I used to play the character for so many years, that a lot has happened in the year and a half that I've been gone, right? And there's a lot of data mining and a lot of shit to go over online. A lot of, you know, stuff that, like, you know, I've spent hours off stream looking at stuff and there's still shit that I've missed, right? So, you know, to have these guys, you know, really help me out has just been, it's been great. So, no, and I agree too. It really does suck because it feels like the things that made Druid, they've removed it and they've supplemented with all this other crap and it's left us weaker. Like, I was just saying in chat like 10 minutes ago, this Treant form is useless. This used to be the form you were in Druid because it bolstered your healing. They need to bring this back. They need to bring this back. Every other form has a benefit or a buff in some way except for this one. Nobody fucking nowadays, unless somebody wants to RP and be like, yeah, I'm a Druid, I'm one with nature, I'm a tree, watch me. Nobody's healing in that fucking form because you're going to be in your normal form because you're going to be popping in and out of other forms anyway. Nobody's static in this form. They need to bring this form back, give it some sort of a thing, like all your hots are increased by like 3 seconds. I think 4 seconds is way too long. I think make it like increase by 3 seconds, or give like a boost to like your mastery passive, or like an overall boost, or maybe when you're in Treant form, maybe give like a haste buff. There's got to be something that they got to do. Maybe they're planning to do that, maybe they're not. But, you know, if anybody's, you know, at Blizzard is like watching my stream, which they probably aren't because I'm a small fry, maybe put that into consideration as a longtime Druid person, that, you know, maybe they need to, because I would love to do this form if there's a benefit to it. But I also love the way my transmog looks because transmogs are fucking super cool. But anyways, I know, classic tree form. Sorry, Pooh Bear.
No, you're all good. I think we're all set. I'm going to call it a night though.
Okay, brother.
Some rest and stuff. So hopefully the build works out.
Hey man, I appreciate you so much. Definitely. Give me a shout. Like if you guys are doing like raids, like my shaman, He's done some heroic raid and some normal raid. Gear wise and skill wise, I'm super confident with him for keys and raiding. My warrior, he's prot now. I'm not really doing keys because I think right now I got enough on my plate with trying to figure out healing between multiple characters to try to do prot tanking in mythic keys, trying to learn all the routes and to do all that stuff. It's just more than I want to undertake. But I mean, I've done raiding with him this tier in normal on my prot warrior, and he's doing really well. So yeah, if you see me on and like I'm not in a key or I'm not doing something and you want me to jump on one of the characters, you know, I don't mind coming in and helping out and doing what I can if you guys are like short somebody or something. So
yeah, for sure, man, I got you.
But anyways, man, have yourself a wonderful night. I appreciate all the time you've put into helping me tonight. It means a lot, man. So I'm gonna try to heal a couple of keys before it gets late here and see if the changes worked. I hope it did.
Yeah, just let me know how it goes. Yeah,
thanks, brother.
Again, it don't like you were saying, it's not gonna be an overnight thing. It's gonna be, you know, or like an instant thing. It's
yeah.
Like, okay, well, this is the play style. I gotta get adjusted to this. I gotta get adjusted to the procs of the tree and stuff. So, you know, I think a little bit, but I think it's gonna be better.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like a lot of the playstyles, like with the incapacitating roar and some of the other stuff, these are all adopted playstyles from like previous expansions where that used to be the meta. So I'm familiar with how they are. The only ones that I never did. So like the one we were talking about before, the only time I ever tried to use that one, and in my strongest opinion, Wild Charge, the only place that actually really has a purpose in is arenas. That ability in arena play, whether it's 2s or 3v3s, is so freaking deadly. Like, because like, yeah, like in a raid, maybe not so much. In like a mythic, maybe not so much. But in PvP, like the ability to do like the bear form, the cat form, the be able to shapeshift and fly to like an ally and stuff like that was like a huge thing. But I mean, for me, I was never good in arenas, so I still never really learned how to properly use it. But Druid Reborn engaged, I know, man. I love learning stuff, man. Like I'm all about trying to learn. I'm not one of those kind of people where it's like, hey, I know everything and I'm going to be closed off and I'm not going to listen to anybody else's opinion because I think I know better, because I don't. There's so much to learn, which is why I'm embracing these gentlemen and listening to their advice and trying to do a balance of what my play style is and what they think some modification should be, to the point of not completely overhauling my druid to a play style that I don't like and that I'm not familiar with, and then end up hating the character because it's like, I don't like this play style. Like I'm not a huge tree incarnate guy. I'm not. Back in Shadowlands, there was certain raid bosses where you would have to be the incarnation tree build because it was simply what was needed for that specific event, because there was no way around it, because you needed to have that amount. I think it was Pooh. What was the one in Shadowlands where like you had like that character, like there was like a big arena thingy and there was like fire that would spawn, but then you would have like these allies that you would have to heal to full before they enraged and shit. Do you know which one I'm talking about? It was in Shadowlands. It was like one where there was like a you're in like a big room and there's like a floating mob, and at certain points in time in the mob you had to heal the mob, and when you healed the mob then other adds came down on the ground, and there was like different types of AoEs and grouping things on the ground. I think it was like I think it was like one of those like fire dudes, and like you had to kite the fire dude around the room, and there was like elementals and shit that you had to kill before they leave like stuff on the ground. Like, do you remember which one I'm talking about?
I can't think of it right now.